So as we already established, HP has sent his regret. So I guess we'll call the meeting to order here at 9:05. And our second order of business, review of the agenda. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, we'll move on to, can I have a mover?
I can move.
Okay, and I'll second to accept the agenda as presented. Moving on to our third order of business, declaration of conflict of interest. Is there anyone with any declarations of conflicts of interest? No. Okay, we'll go to our fourth order of business, adoption of previous minutes.
I can adopt.
If there are no errors or omission, Sally, you'll move, and I will second.
I just wondered, Mr. Chair, can you second if you weren't at the other meeting, at the last meeting?
Was I not at the last meeting?
No.
Yes,
Or were you not?
I was.
As part of the order, you can still, yes.
Okay, good. Just curious.
I hope so, or we'll have to cancel the meeting.
Yeah, let's keep going.
And seconded by Jim.
Okay.
So we had none there on the agenda. Does anyone have any business arising from the minutes of the last meeting?
No.
Obviously, I don't. Okay, we'll move on to public presentations, which we have none. And that'll bring us to our seventh order of business, administrative reports, 7.1, Tulloch Engineering Project List.
And I can just go through and do some highlights, and then if you have any questions from there, you can ask me at that time. So the old Public Works Courthouse, as you know, council approved that on Monday. So I have reached out to Tyler Monday evening to go ahead and let the contractor know so we can get a schedule and a timeline for this, so everyone is well aware and we can get it out to the public as well. The town backup generator review, it's pretty much complete. We're waiting on Met to get back to us. So Met would be the equivalent to Tulloch. Tulloch has contracted them to be the engineer, and then we'll go out to tender for those products. We've also done our complete review of the Public Works facility, because currently the Public Works, with the backup generator they have, it works the fuel pumps, it works some lighting within the shop, not all, and it doesn't have any power to the break room or to the offices, which we will need. So we're looking at doing some minor tweaks to that system. We reached out to Himalayan Engineering that did all of that for the build, and they have reached back out after 3 weeks, but they did reach back out, which is better than the last time we tried to contact them. So we're hoping that they can tie some pieces in for us with the as-builts, because there was no as-builts received by the town when that project was complete. So we're looking for that, and we'll work with Met to tie up those loose ends and hopefully fix a few other things like the air exchange that's there but was never hooked up. So we're looking at those types of issues at the Public Works building with Met. The roof at Public Works was also going to be done by a contractor that was at the information center. And as we know, there's been some delays with that contractor. So we're still awaiting that project. And then the air exchange and the generator I've touched on. The Tourist Information Center, I hope to go down there today and see what kind of improvements we have. And then I'll send out an update to all of council on that one. To my knowledge, all of the contractors are out of there now, and we're just getting it set up. But I will reconfirm that. The Public Works pole barn. So we did look at that, because one of the issues that Public Works is having is with storage and having enough room to put the materials that we need to have. Looking at that pole barn and then looking at the assessment that we have in the facility review, the money that would go into doing that is quite extensive. There has been some identified structural issues with some broken cross arms in the building. What the ideal situation is, in speaking with Bernie at Public Works and the foreman, as well as Telic Engineering, we know and we identified to council when you first took office 4 years ago that the salt and sand shed that we have was poorly designed, and the salt is eating away at the metal along the bottom, around the bottom. So the ideal situation to correct that and correct the storage issue would be to look at and plan it out maybe over 3-4 years, depending on budget, or if grants become available, but earmark it through the budget process, is a sand shed similar to what the MTO has at their yard, not that large, but on that scale. So one of those round domes that would be on a block base. So we would then build in the area where the pole barn is now. That would allow us to have room for the sand and the salt, and then utilize the sand and salt shed before it's beyond repair as a storage. And we would install heat. There's already a gas line that goes there. So have a light heat source in there that we could put the water truck in there. Other items off season that we aren't using in the winter months that would allow them to be warm in the event that we need that piece of equipment. And it would give us a lot more storage for our outside. So it would clean up the yard as well. So that is the future planning that we're looking at, and we will be presenting to the budget committee. It's not we want the $300,000 this year for the unit, but it is something that we should be putting on as part of our asset management plan before we lose that whole facility of the salt and shed. So it's a way to save that and put the sand and the salt in a proper facility. So it's something we've been working on. I don't know if you have any questions about that now, or.
No, it makes
The town hall is on the back burner. Obviously, we don't have the funding available for that, but it's still something that as we make changes to this area, we're keeping in the back of our mind of possible future builds. In a perfect world, what would that look like? How would that be? So one of the things that we're going to be cognizant of when we're removing the courthouse is that could possibly be a future site for the new town hall that would allow us to stay in this current facility without service disruption before moving over once a new build is complete. It would be out from where that building is, more into the parking lot. And what we'd like to propose is, if there is enough funds within the 2023 budget, to look at landscaping in that area, to making a larger curb in with grass and trees, and even picnic areas, picnic table areas. So there's other places for people to sit, which would expand that seating area for concerts by the river when we can get back to this location. So those are some of the things that are also on the planning.
Excuse me, Katie. Sally, go ahead.
Yeah, with regards to concerts by the river, I know, speaking to the Rotary last week, they're really, really happy with the location that they're at right now. They were saying that there was greater seating area for people, and those that have wheelchairs are able to access via the walkway, and they love the view behind. And for the ones that have young kiddies, the kiddies enjoy being able to play in the sand while their parents are listening to the music. So it's really been a good coup for the town to offer that as an alternative site. And as I say, they would love to stay going forward.
And that would be amazing if we can utilize that space for that purpose. That was the whole intent of it. So that's great. That's great news.
Pertaining to the site over along the river, Katie, I know the contract and the construction work is pretty well done. Is there a sod going down, or are we throwing down grass seed over that land? What I'm worried about is erosion, from some of the heavy rains, and it looks pretty nice. It looks like it's ready to go. I was just wondering what the plans were for that.
I'm going to have to follow up on that. I was wondering the same thing last night, and I can't remember where we put that into the contract. And we may have been waiting to see where we were at budget wise to determine that. But I know I took some pictures last night and I can see there's a few things with the landscaping that I'm going to reach back out to. We were supposed to have a meeting with Telek today at 10:30, but he's on holidays, so we've rescheduled it for next week. But it is definitely something that's on my radar that I will be reaching out to them on.
Good. I mean, it looks like we placed the blacktop, the earth, it'd be a shame to lose it all, have it all wash off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sally, any other questions that you might have?
No, I agree that, it looks absolutely fabulous there, and it would be sad to lose what we've got, since it matches your vision board, Jim.
Absolutely. You want to see it? I'll turn the.
There you go.
Right there. Oh,
I
there's a
just had
couple of things that are missing, but it's all right.
There you go. I just a question, Katie, on when the docks would be arriving to the river.
Yeah, so we're waiting for those orders to be fulfilled. We're thinking that won't be until end of September, or sorry, end of August into September, just based on demand and supply. We weren't able to purchase all of the docks we need this year. They'll have to be staged, but we had within budget, we are putting in there, and we were looking at the bottom line. So we may actually end up with one extra dock than we had originally thought we would have. So they will be in. The high priority will be this side of the river at the boat launch.
All right. Okay. There's no more questions. We'll move on to 7.2, transfer of property.
Yeah, so this is what we discussed during our site meeting. So I'm looking for approval from the committee to take to council to complete the transaction. What I'd like to do is engage the surveyors so that we have a clear idea for council as to exactly what is being transferred for what. So that's what I'm requesting today, so I can move forward with that, so we get that ball rolling for the Woodward project.
Yeah, Katie, and you're saying for the surveyors, so you're going to send us, council will receive a nice little picture of a darkened area. Okay, that'd be great.
That's correct, yes.
Well, we have a motion here, so I'm going to need a mover and a seconder for this.
You already have it. It's sprung up on our screens.
Oh, there it is. Thank you, Sally.
I didn't do it. I think our wonderful, illustrious Pam may have done that.
She got ahead of us.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, let's moving on. Our 8th order of business, correspondence, we have none. And we have no addendum. New business. Does anyone have any new business? And that would be Ms. Scott.
I just wanted to update the committee on Haynes Hawkins. So we've reached out to the contractors who had received bid packages to find out what the issue was and why they didn't submit. Everyone is very concerned about the hole boring under the rock. So the drillers didn't want to take the lead and the contractors didn't want to take the lead. Everyone was concerned with that. Their preference is an open cut. Yeah. So my direction to Chris Kirby yesterday, or I believe it was yesterday morning, was to reach out to the railway and say, look, nobody wants to take the proposal you've put forward. There's too much liability and too much risk. The rationale for the railway wanting to do the borehole because they don't want to close the railway for a long period of time. The contractors that we discussed this with indicate that they can have this done within a 24-hour period working late shifts. So we're trying to work with the railway to convince them to get on board with this. My concern is that if they don't, and we have to do a piecemeal, which I think we're going to have to do, if we can't do that side, we're going to have to at least go out to the manhole on Causley back into Hawkins. You'll notice that big hole in the middle, sinkhole in the middle of the crosswalk in that area. We're very, very concerned about that. If we don't get that fixed, my concern is we're going to have a major failure, major collapse, similar to Woodward, possibly worse in that area. So it's imperative that we get this moving. I'm staying on top of the railway. Chris Kirby is on holidays this week, but he has committed to being in cell service to ensure that he's staying on top of them as well. And we've also put the contractors on notice that if we can get this turned around, are you ready and able to get us a very quick turnaround to an addendum to the current tender? They have agreed. So essentially stay tuned. I hope to get this off of our plates this week.
Okay, I'm going to jump in, Katie. I have all the same concerns that you just mentioned. And I'll just step it up one notch because I'm always looking at the end game. Let's say we have a total failure of that complete side of the town. Okay, I'd like to know, maybe, can you find out what our legal responsibility is here? Because if that's completely shut down, that side of town, there's no more sewer, would we not be able to, hey, like now what do we do? Now what do we do? What can we do? That's more important.
So one of the things that I've been thinking is if the railway comes back today with a negative response, I think, and I already have started drafting, but I think we have the mayor send an emergency letter out to both federal and provincial, but we start with our local provincial representative and we get him to move it up the chain as quickly as we can. This is a very serious concern of ours, and being the federal government regulates this, we need to get it on their laps, because it's going to be the province and the MOE that are after us, and potentially the MTO if we're closing down Highway 17. So we need to get this moving, and I've made it very clear to the railway that this is the direction of council. This is what their concern is, and we've made you aware, and you're the holdup. So without coming out and saying you're going to be liable, pretty much made it clear that they are going to be. But certainly I will reach out to our contact at the MOE and find out where they would stand. So Paris, see where she would stand with this, and I can certainly get a letter from her as well in moving this forward. But I'm hoping to have something from the railway today that we can move our next step, so our next plan of attack with.
Yeah. I sure hell hate to see a total collapse there, and 300, 350, 400 homes, no toilets, and there will be people flushing, and there will be backups and the whole 9 yards. Like it could be a real mess there. And so I'm just wondering if we had a plan B, in case of an emergency.
We have a plan B, C, and D that we're working alongside PUC with as well.
Sally, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, we're fortunate in one respect that if we do have to shut down Highway 17, we do have a diversion that we could put in place in an emergency situation. And, a lot of communities don't have that option. So we are lucky there.
Yeah.
But let's hope for the best today with the railway saying yes.
Yeah, no, I forgot about that. That's a good opportunity there, that if we had to do that, yeah. We have another bridge. Okay, any other new business, Katie or Sally?
No, I was just going to apologize for the loon in the background, because
that's all right. That's all right. I see Sally. I saw it.
My son is catching some whopper fish on outside of Oakville for a fishing contest. So he's showing off the prize fish, which is so far over 30 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
We're talking salmon here.
We're talking salmon. Yes.
Yeah. Katie, I saw your hand to come up for another piece of new business.
So I just wanted to note to the committee that I have undertaken the CVOR supervisor training for the last 2 days. We definitely have some holes and some gaps that need to be filled. So we're going to implement a number of policies that will be coming to the Corporate Services Committee to bring us up to compliance, and we will be developing an emergency plan with regard to that, as well as we will be setting some levels of standard, which would declare an emergency in that, you know, we have a significant weather event that we wouldn't need to go to council to have that, so that we can have our drivers out working above their hours that are detailed within the CBOR. So 2 days of a lot of drinking from a fire hose and realizing that we have a lot of work ahead of us. But I've made a lot of notes and a lot of planning ideas that I will be sharing with our new Director of Public Services. So there will be a lot of work on that desk commencing August 29th. So the other thing that we did undertake the week before I went on holidays was we were spot checked for an audit for our pit. So we did go through that. I had Mr. May sit in on that with me. The auditor was very good. There was a few things identified that have not been quite up to par. We weren't not in compliance, but there's a lot of things we can do differently. So I'm also working on a new rollout for that plan. So the filing, the reporting, the sheets, how they should look for the drivers, what needs to be recorded, what doesn't. And then following that, did speak with the whole team at Public Works as this is why we have the requirement. It may seem piddly, but this is why we need to do this. So implementing those new procedures internally with the department is working well. So the audit was intense, but it was good. A lot of positives came out of it. So we're happy moving forward that we will be fully in compliance.
Katie, we're talking about our sand pit.
Yes.
Okay, I have two questions. Is this maybe
Sure.
you might be able to enlighten me. One would be, do you have any idea what length of time we have before maybe it's finished? And two, maybe the MOE or the ministry, anything about the sparrows or the birds?
So this was a different audit. This wasn't with the MNR. This was
Okay.
with Torrens. So they look at our reporting. So they monitor how much material has been taken out of the pit. So it's more of a paperwork audit. With regard to the sparrows, we did have a site visit because there was a complaint to the MNR, but they said that we were doing the proper things by taking down the face following extraction. We do have fencing up around the one area that is seems to be the habitual area where the sparrows do go back. And we do have now an internal procedure with the Public Works team as to when they're going to do their winter sand. So they're not going to do it during the mating season and the nesting season of the sparrow. So it'll be prior to May and then into the winter, into the later fall.
I remember having a conversation, I don't know what committee it was, about when and if this pit does become extinct. And I think you brought it forward, Katie, that we're going to wind up having to pay for our, I mean, all the sand pits seem to be all privately owned now. And I don't know if we've reached out or looked at an idea on, I know there's a few places further north around the Mataninda area that would have sand, but I mean, would we look at rebuilding a pit somewhere else or just purchasing the sand? And I don't know what then we're at the, we could get those people rising the prices on winter sand on us or something like, I know this might be 10 years down the road, but I know you brought it up. So,
well, we brought it up probably 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, with the council of the day, with the committee of the day, Mr. May did bring a report and a concern that we should be looking at a pit. Prior to that, the foreman of the day would have brought in a report because there was a pit available for sale.
Yeah.
But at the time, council felt that there was enough years out and they didn't want to invest the money at the time. But now we're here. So we may have 10 years left, but I think that may be pushing it.
Yeah, we use that for ground cover too up at the landfill, don't we?
We do.
Besides winter sand, yeah.
We do, but we're looking at other ways to cover the landfill. So anytime we're doing any construction, for example, Woodward, because we know that we have contaminated soil there, we're not going to be able to just put that anywhere. We can put that as cover. So that is a suggestion that I inquired with our engineers, and they agreed that our landfill can handle that. So that's what we'll be using for cover. So we'll be able to stockpile it. We'll have to make an area prior to construction of Woodward to locate that fill at when we're doing that work.
Wow.
So that'll help our pit. Anything we can do to help save our pit is what we're moving forward with.
Okay. Okay, so if you're finished with new business, we'll go into adjournment. Thank you everyone for showing up today. And we'll call the adjournment. We need a mover and a seconder. Is that posted already too?
Oh, my screen just froze, so just a second.
Oh, okay. Well, it was moved by Sally and seconded by Jim that we adjourn the
Yes.
meeting at 9:31.